Good evening, everyone. Can I welcome everybody, members and members of the public, to the September meeting of the Planning Committee. Firstly, can I say for members to note that this meeting is being recorded, and also I'd like to introduce the top table. So I'm Councillor Bob Cope. To my right is
Councillor Robert Duncan.
Hello, Simon Hall from County Highways.
I'm Rick Piahotsky, County Highways.
Hardip Sharma, solicitor to the council tonight.
Helen Benbow, Development Management Team Manager.
Michael Brown, Assistant Team Manager, Strategic Projects.
Jessica Allsop, Senior Planning Officer. Rebecca Potter, I'm one of the planning officers.
Thank you, everybody. Therefore, we'll go into the meeting. Number one on the agenda is the minutes. Can members tell me whether you're happy with the minutes from the last meeting? In favour, thank you. Item 2, are there any apologies? No, I haven't had any either. Any apologies from anyone? No. So item 3, declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest? Councillor Kelly.
Yes, item number 2, Chair, the battery storage on Wolgarson Way. And I'll be speaking as a member of the public and leaving the room.
Councillor Reid. If we can just use another microphone. Okay, Councillor.
Yep, here we are. Yeah, it's just to clarify the micro battery storage. I don't need to declare an interest on that because previously I've declared interest on the major battery BESS, but I'm clear now that I'm okay on this one.
This doesn't affect you personally, so I do actually agree you don't have to declare an interest.
Right.
And in any event, I did want to say that because the battery box is on council land, we have a situation here where the application obviously affects council land, but you have all got a dispensation under the legislation to actually speak and vote on the matter, other than those who have actually declared a pecuniary interest. So that's the position there. So declarations of interest.
Yeah, any other declarations of interest? No. Okay. Sorry, was there someone else? No. Therefore, we'll move to item 4, which is the determination of the planning applications. So the first one on our agenda is application 23/01052, and it's outline OUT-MEI, and it's land east of the A449 north of Penkridge. I'll hand it over to Ellen to describe the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm actually going to hand to Mike Brown for this application. Thank you, Mike.
Helen, thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. Prior to starting the presentation and to reiterate the statement made at the beginning of the officer's report, this application has now been appealed by the applicant, and as such, this committee will not be determining the application tonight. Rather, the proposal is before you to allow for the committee to detail to the planning inspectorate what their opinions are on the submission. In addition, tonight's resolution will also inform the LPA's position at the public inquiry. If we begin with the presentation, the photograph we have before us shows the application site, specific wholly to this application. It comprises 2 agricultural fields, which total an area of 7.3 hectares. Such is located adjacent to the northern edge of the village of Penkridge. The southern field, which can be accessed via the field access, we can see to the right hand side of the picture there. Then we have the Severn Trent water pumping station access, which is located centrally to the site, which you can kind of make out in the middle of the picture, just behind the car there. And then the site itself runs away to the north up to the, sort of the end of that tree belt there. We have some photographs internal to the site. So this is a view from along the existing Severn Trent water access, looking south back towards Penkridge. This is a view along the Severn Trent water access. So the pumping station is towards the end of that road. Running along the background there, we have the River Penk, which forms the western boundary to the scheme. And this is the view to the north. So you can see the land rises quite steeply, and then the northern edge of the site is formed by that wooded area in the distance there. So, as evident by the location plan, the 2 fields are located either side of the previously described Severn Trent pumping station. To the west is the River Penk. To the south is the so-called Trine land, which is not currently subject to any formal planning application. To the west, we have the existing Bloor Homes development, which is now nearing completion. And to the north, agricultural fields and the wooded area we talked about momentarily ago. The proposal before us today comprises 2 elements. So specific to the application area, which we saw on the red line a second ago, we have, as evidenced by the beige colours before us and those blocks, 2 areas of housing, which combined are proposed to deliver up to 135 dwellings. Whilst all matters except access are reserved, this parameters plan also indicates broadly where the houses would be built, the blobs that we can see, and where the green and blue infrastructure would be located along with active travel route, which is the yellow dotted line, and also the play park, which is a tiny little star which you can kind of make out on there. Helen's pointing towards it for us. The second element of the plan is the proposals for the remainder of the site. As noted within the officer report, this application is EIA development and is one of 4 currently under consideration by the council. The ES contains this parameter plan, which we can see before us, and improving the application would have approved this layout going forward, establishing effectively the pattern of development for the wider 69.5 hectare, 1,100 dwelling development. Whilst not wanting to pick out all elements of the plan, when such is detailed within the officer's report, in broad terms, the proposal includes the school land, which is shown as the purple area, the community hub, which includes shops, etc., which is the orange area, the Riverside Park, which is the pinkish colour area to the eastern boundary, sports and mugger areas, which are the blue, and then allotments, orchards, which are the brown parts of the site. Also embedded within the ES and what would have been for consideration as part of the submission is the building height plan. As evidenced here within the application site itself, we have to the southern edge development, which would have been up to 3 stories in height, and for the northern parcel, up to 2.5 stories. The sole area within the wider scheme where the building height achieves 4 stories is within the community hub block, which is the sort of brownish coloured area. Access is to be considered as part of this application. 2 points of access are proposed. This shows the southern access point, which would serve also the neighbouring Severn Trent water pumping station access. So you can kind of see such goes off at 90-degree angle just as you enter the site. The suitability of the access has been considered by the Highways Authority, if deemed such to be acceptable. You can also see, as shown on this plan, the proposed active travel route, which is shown in blue, runs along the front of the site. Moving north, we have secondary access, which is proposed to be formed off the existing roundabout, which serves the neighbouring law housing scheme. So it's a 4th arm off that roundabout. Again, you can see the continuation of the the continuation of the active travel, continuation of the active travel route in blue, which runs through that access and then on up further north away from Penkridge. This final drawing shows the remainder of the A449 frontage along the site. You can see where the active travel route has crossed the road and continues further north along this area. Obviously, the remains of footpath along would be the eastern side of the road, and we have shown by the sort of blue star circle there. That's a proposed bus stop. Turning to the consideration of the scheme's impact, in this case, the material planning considerations arising from the proposal are lengthy and complex, and I'll not seek to reiterate them here, given such are detailed within the officer's report. But in broad terms, the principle of the development. The council's housing land supply position is currently 1.17 years. As per paragraph 11 of the NPPF, the housing policies within the development plan as a consequence of this are no longer up to date. Therefore, housing policies within the NPPF have primacy, with the so-called tilted balance for housing-led development engaged, where permission must be granted unless areas of particular importance provide a strong reason for refusal. This includes protected SACs, locations, as well as impact on the ANOB. As detailed within the officer's report, the scheme's impact individually and as part of the wider master plan in these regards has been considered to be acceptable. Any impact of approving the scheme would significantly and demonstrably outweigh the benefits, having regard to the sustainability of the location, making effective use of land and securing well-designed places, as well as providing affordable homes. Working through these points, the location is considered sustainable, given its proximity adjacent to Penkridge, and evidence to demonstrate such being included within the council's emerging plan, given this site is proposed for future allocation. In terms of the effective use of land, the density, ecological, arboricultural, drainage, flood risk, highway impact, etc. of the proposal have all been considered to be acceptable. In terms of securing well-designed places, the parameter plan and design guide embedded within the design and access statement have all been involved through work with the applicant and the council's independent consultants, HIAS. In terms of the parameters plan, this is reflective of what is proposed within the emerging plan and is considered to have secured the future delivery of high quality design. Finally, in terms of delivering affordable homes, the scheme will deliver 40% as policy requirement, with the mix as such to be secured via the section 106 and the amended condition detailed within the update report. Given therefore the ability of the scheme to comply with all facets of the tilted balance compliance, follows that permission must be granted. As such, the recommendation for this application would have been one for conditional approval, subject to the signing of the section 106 agreement and the UU to cover SAC payment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. We don't have anybody speaking against or for this application. And I believe the applicants are not speaking tonight either. So we have no speakers. So therefore, I go straight to the local members, which is Councillor Adams and Kelly. The local members speak first. You don't want to speak? I've got that down as on there. All right, sorry, it's printed on here. Sorry, that was a mistake on what I've been advised. I'm corrected. So it's over to you, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just before I start, it's obviously no secret that I live in quite close proximity to the site, but I've come today with kind of an open mind, especially when reviewing this application. I guess my purpose for speaking today is to try and give residents more information and put it into plain English what is in front of us today. The government has a condition that councils must meet a 5-year land supply. If you don't meet that land supply, then pretty much every housing application is tilted in the balance and you must approve. If you don't approve, then it probably will go to appeal, cost your council lots of money and get overturned anyway. So that's the situation that we are in currently. This site has been located in, I think, 2 local plans since I've been a councillor, and I've only been a councillor for 1 term. And so it's been allocated. So again, it's very much weighted again in favour of approval. And then finally, it's gone to appeal. So it will go through the appeals process. Today is a chance to say what we like, what we would like to improve about the site. But at the end of the day, the decision is kind of outside of our hands. The only comment I'd like to make about this whole site is more around, and it's not a material planning concern, it's around the Severn Trent access. Severn Trent, being a private water company, which we gave away our assets as a country to, has denied the council and the landowners the ability to move throughout the site. They've been very, and they obviously have to because they're a private company, and I understand why, but it's extremely unfortunate that we weren't able to come to an agreement with Severn Trent, and really disappointing from their point of view, from our point of view, because effectively you would have been able to flow all the way through this site from the school away from the A449, but just at the very end you now have to go onto the A449 and do 200 metres walking down it. Very disappointing, not great, but that is kind of all I want to say. I'm interested to hear the debate from members and hear what their concerns and also what they like about the site. But that's all. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Any more speakers? Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Chair. As you see, I've been doing a lot of research on this, and my concerns is, as the ward member has stated, on several points, the Severn Trent issue. There is some part of, looking at the late submission paperwork, Helen can answer this part. There is a part of agreement for an access that's going to cross the Severn Trent elements, isn't there? Because you're going to have a junction, then another junction, then an island. Is that correct? Or is it going to be Severn Trent coming on to another junction?
Mike.
Yeah, so Severn Trent are coming on to their access. Yeah, because that was originally Severn Trent access, wasn't it? Yeah. So there is some sort of agreement with, and my point would be, if there's agreement can be made there, why couldn't that access, instead of having 2 junctions on a short distance, be moved up to the island, coming across the land? making it a lot easier off an island.
You want to refer to the county one? Okay.
Through you, Chair, if I may, and bring County Highway colleagues in if necessary. But yeah, obviously the access to the Severn Trent asset at the bottom of the site is an existing feature. It's what we call a hard constraint. It is already there. The land owned for the access belongs to Severn Trent Water because they have to be able to access the pumping station that is at the bottom of the site. Those members who did the site visit with us last week, we walked down the track so we could see where the access was. Severn Trent Water own that land. They have the right to maintain their access. They've got to be able to access it for maintenance purposes, etc. And it just would have been very difficult for them to be able to maintain that access if we'd have created that connectivity across the two sites. But ultimately, it's their land. It's outside of the jurisdiction of the control of the applicant, and it's also outside of the red line. So I appreciate it would have been better if we could have done it that way, but we have to consider it on its merits now, and it is not to the detriment of the scheme that would warrant refusal. You can see from this plan here, which I think hopefully will help what Councillor Kelly's referring to. So this is the vehicle access here, and then you sweep onto that access, which is the Severn Trent private access down to the pumping station. That's got to be maintained, and this is the new vehicle access, but the active travel routes here will obviously provide a really well connected link to the rest of the site and the wider facilities on the site. So yes, we haven't been able to achieve that access across because of private land ownership matters, which are outside of the planning remit for today, but we have done the best in terms of that connectivity along the 449. So I hope that's kind of gone some way to explain it. If Highways colleagues did want to come in, that's fine, but hopefully that's covered it. Thank you, Chair.
Do Highways want to make a comment about the two junctions? Yeah.
In terms of the junctions, I think, although it looks as though it is close to the junction, I think you've got to remember the scale of that plan, and also with it being the Severn Trent Water access, it's very infrequently used. So we're not expecting a huge amount of vehicles coming out there. One thing I have asked that there's no gate shown on the application at the moment, and obviously if that's going to be an adopted highway, the gate won't be on that first part of it. So the gate will have to be set back because we wouldn't accept a gate across a highway. So it's just understanding, really, it's not going to be a frequently used access. And if they are coming up and down there, my experience, these things, they come up once or twice a week, depending on how blocked the station is and how quick they need to empty everything out of there. So it is acceptable from a highway element because of the use that we're expecting on there.
Councillor Kelly, you want to come back?
Thank you on that, because my point on that was, on that point, is that it will lead to antisocial issues where cars could go down there, do all sorts of stuff down there and come up and cause problems for the houses. And that is my concern on that one point. And that's why I thought off the island, it's an easier option because it's out the way straight onto an island, whereas that is coming onto not only Blora Estate, which is just a few hundred metres up the road, but you've got Cameron's Estate as well, which is just opposite virtually. And you're going to have no filter lanes. And we've already seen on that island how many accidents there's been in recent months. So there's the point I was trying to.
So in terms of the 449, yeah, I'd take your point on what you're saying, but I think by the time you see this application and the other applications built out in Penkridge, the nature of the 449 is going to change totally. At the moment, it's still what we could say a high-speed road coming into Penkridge. A lot of the members tell you there's still a lot of speeds, and there's always been a bugbear down there as they come into the edge of the village. They're still speeding. I think the measures that you see from this and the other applications, you'll see the nature of the 449 change, and the speeds will be more conducive and helpful to people to walk up and down there. And punctuated by the accesses as well, there'll be more activity on there, so the speeds will get eventually. By the time we've finished putting everything in, the speeds will be a lot slower and it'll be a lot easier for vehicles and people especially the people side of things with the active travel element to get around.
It'd be a best recommendation on the Severn Trent that they would need to put a gate on there.
Okay,
Yeah, I'd be surprised if Severn Trent don't want a gate because the very reasons you've just said, antisocial behaviour, people fly tipping, etc. Normally you'll see a gate on those sort of things. I know there's not one on the plan. I don't know, I haven't been too much involved with the negotiations with Severn Trent, but I'd be surprised if they didn't want a gate somewhere.
happy with that?
Yes, on that point, thank you, Chair. Can
Yeah.
further points I've got, the outline area of the red for the active travel. Is there a section 278 agreed in the conditions or not?
Is that Mike?
I can just deal with that. The section 278 actually comes after the grant of planning permission, and it's something which is actually negotiated alongside the section 106 agreement, and the district will deal with the section 106 agreement, but the 278 agreement will be a matter for the Highway Authority. So that always comes after the grant of planning permission.
Thank you. A few more questions. So all the conditions that are laid out on page 102, have they been all agreed or are they still to be agreed?
Chair, they have been agreed informally with the applicant. Ultimately, however, we are not the determining authority, so it will be for the planning inspectorate to determine whether they are reasonable. We can submit a statement of common ground with the applicant where they are agreed. That hasn't occurred yet because that's not submitted yet, but we'll be working through that with the applicant as we move forward. Hopefully they will be presented to the inspector as agreed, but like I say, that's not been resolved yet.
Thank you, Grant, because in the paperwork it says prior and it doesn't confirm that they are agreed. So as you're saying, you've clarified that point. The 106 says, SARDIP says has got to be agreed, and those are the figures on page 100 that have been submitted. Sound, I'm happy with that. On pages, just get to the other issue. So today's is only for the access at the moment, and then further application for the 135 dwellings plus design codes plus other elements will be decided later on a further application. That's it. I've got no further question. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. Councillor Adams.
Thank you. Just to say that I'm a member of Penkridge Borough Council, and we have met with the developers quite a number of times over the last 2 years and gone through these and the other applications which we're not discussing tonight. And you know, I think we would be fairly happy because the plan has worked hard and we've made various suggestions. What we were concerned with was the infrastructure, that these are being built without the relevant infrastructure, but I believe that you know, those conditions or section 106 requirements will probably be met. It seems as if it is in the paperwork. So I think on the whole, you know, with all the reasons that have been outlined before, we will need housing, and I think that we're quite happy with this proposal. Thank you.
Councillor Harper Wallace.
I don't know if this is the right forum, but would we have the opportunity for the highways, now that they're here, put a bit of colour on what would happen further off this site in terms of access to this site? I don't know if any of those preliminary negotiations have happened yet, if there's anything that can be revealed tonight, but thank you.
Helen, is that something we deal with tonight?
Sorry, when you say off the site, what do you mean? Sorry.
To the south of the site, there's potential monies for road improvements and access improvements to Penkridge. Would highways be willing to make any comments to that about that?
Oh, I understand. So from the site towards the south to the existing
Towards the
Penkridge
south,
village.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Amrit, did you want to?
Yeah, thank you.
As part of the proposals, the active travel corridor along the site frontage will link into Penkridge Town Centre, and that will be developer funded. There will be Section 106 monies to improve further junctions that lead to the schools, primary, middle and high schools. So they'll be dealt with by County Highways once we receive the funds. And we've reviewed the proposals and we've come up with an agreed amount that this scheme would need to contribute to deliver those schemes.
Happy with that? Okay. Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I'd like to say how useful the site visit was for members. Very, very useful indeed. It's all right looking at maps, but when you're on the site itself, you get a better picture. One of the things that I experienced was, along with our chairman, was crossing the road. And I think that there's got to be a lot of care put into the safety of crossing these islands, because we didn't know which way to look. They were coming from us always. And I might have gone to a new crossing instead of island, but I got a helping hand. But no, I just feel that the islands themselves, and I think you did mention it in your response, do slow down the traffic because they got used to the fact there's going to be another one when the regular users. And that if we have this Pegasus, and I'll try to find out what Pegasus details are, and I got nowhere other than the Second World War in Normandy, where there is a memorial. But and that's worth reading, by the way. So what is exactly a Pegasus crossing?
So,
oh, sorry.
Simon.
A Pegasus crossing, it just allows a horse as well. So it's cyclists, pedestrians, and I think it's so the push button gets a bit higher as well. So you don't have to get off yours, you can just. So that's how the Pegasus crossings work, and I think just going on board what you're saying about the islands, by the time the rest of the sites do get developed, you'll have, I think, is it 3 islands, but in between the islands, you'll also be punctuated by proper crossings, like you just said, the Pegasus crossings. I think the other thing you'll find is once there's an activity across there, so there's a need for people to start crossing the road and using them, drivers will start to get used to it, because at the moment, you're driving down from the M6 junction, you virtually, before you hit Penkridge, there's not a great deal of activity to slow you down. I think by the time you see a lot of this development going, you'll see a lot more activity going across the 449, as well as going up and down it towards the village. You'll have people going towards the local centre, the schools. So you'll see a lot more activity that will help in terms of getting those vehicle speeds down. Because at the moment, there's no pedestrians and there's no junctions to keep people, at the minute, it's just a free ride till you hit Penkridge, till you hit that roundabout. And I'm sure the local members will tell you, when the roundabout was first built, there was a few people got caught out with it, and you could see real marks going straight through the middle of the roundabout. As things settle in and bed in, you'll find the speeds will come down and people will be a bit more attentive, because the fact they'll have a lot more activity going on there in terms of horses, people, cyclists, scooters, you name it, going up and down there. So that activity on the highway will help to keep the vehicle speeds lower.
Sorry, can I just add that the Pegasus crossing is outside the scope of this application. It's part of the wider application to the north.
Councillor Ashley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I attended the site visit when we had it last week, and if I may say so, I found it quite revealing. And there were 2 things that struck me at the time. I would suggest that we've got 2 very big issues on planning in South Staffordshire. One is housing and taking up valuable agricultural land, and 76% of this site is classed as good agricultural land. And the other one is huge areas being taken up by solar farms. Now, what struck me as we were standing near where the Severn Trent pumping station is this. The biggest part of this site faces north to south on a slope. And I looked at it and I thought, well, that's ideal for two things, housing or a solar farm. Wouldn't it be possible in some way to give encouragement to get the best out of both of those possibilities? What I'm saying in effect, Mr. Chairman, I know this is outline planning permission, but is it possible for us to put something in, and I noticed the housing types have been designated, that we do some kind of initiative to persuade the houses that are built with south facing roofs, have initiatives, and perhaps some money, but some kind of incentives to install solar panels on south facing roofs. Because if we could encourage that and get some of it there, I wouldn't say we'd be killing two birds with one stone, but surely it will help. Because as I've just mentioned, we need to get these solar farms and issues. Now, on a personal basis, I've got solar panels. And if I may say so, this recent summer, which is just gone, my solar panels have never produced so much income as it has been before. And I've only got a very limited number of panels. That's the point I'm trying to make, Mr. Chairman. Not only does it help towards renewable energy, it also can be quite profitable for people who either install them or companies who encourage it. I just wonder if it is possible to put something in, if it's passed as outline permission, which I assume it will, to include something for dwellings that could be suitable for the installation of solar panels.
Helen, Mike, one of you want to comment?
Thank you through you, Chair. Yeah, I think it's a really fair point, Councillor Ashley, in terms of the volume of houses that are going to be put in this location, especially over the whole allocation. The emerging plan does make provisions for solar panels to be fitted as a matter of course. We couldn't necessarily nail it at this stage because of it being an outline consent, but just as a council, we are looking to secure that going forward. But I think more pertinently is that the building regulations regime is being updated. There is no fixed date for that yet, but it's imminently expected. And the building industry at the moment, including Bloor Homes, are factoring that into their build costs going forward. It's very likely that when these homes start to come out of the ground, and especially with the wider site, that it will be a building regulations requirement that they are fitted with solar panels. So your thought process is correct. That scheme is kind of catching up with itself now, very much the same as electric vehicle charging points, and that is a building regs requirement that each new dwelling has to include that as well. So in the spirit of net zero, that's the direction of travel. So we wouldn't be able to secure it as part of this outline application, but it's very much the spirit of the way the legislation from central government is going anyway. So hopefully that gives you some comfort. Thank you, Chair.
You want to come back, Councillor Lawson? No, okay. Any more speakers? Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's just a comment that was made about the agricultural land. I read somewhere in that report where we've got to make sure we didn't waste the gravel, sand in arable agricultural land. It might be very valuable because of building it, but it's not what I call best of land. It is all sand and gravel. Just a point.
Just an observation. Councillor Kelly.
You Chair, just 2 points I'm going to raise. Firstly, on the map that we've got up, the park is in the far south of the near the floodplain. Is that correct?
Chair, if Helen can point to it, it's sort of a yellow star. So yeah, right on the edge of the wooded area. Yeah. So it's not within the floodplain, which is more to but it's on the edge of the housing estate next to the active gravel route, which, as you can see, goes up through the site towards the school and local centre.
on a comeback on that, wouldn't it be better served in the middle of the estate for everybody to be inclusively used, so that everybody's got access in the middle of the site instead of in the far right hand corner near the wooded area where it could cause antisocial behaviour issues?
Do you want, the point is we have to look at this application as it's submitted to us. So we can't vary it, we have to judge it. But does anybody want to make a comment to that? Mike, okay.
You, Chair. I appreciate the comment, and it's brought up in because it was a point raised by a resident that the park would be better served within the centre of the site, and I have some sympathy with that viewpoint. However, the siting's been chosen because it is next to the active travel route. So as you progress through the site, we haven't got details yet, but there'll be elements of play on the way, so sort of logs, etc., placed within various places. So the reason it's there is to tie in with that route. So there'll be, as you move throughout the site, you'll see similar sort of relationships where these parks are located within the green infrastructure to sort of provide that route around the edge. So that's why it's there. I understand the point and I appreciate what you're saying, but it's been considered in the round to be a reasonable design solution, and they've explained it fairly well to us.
You want to come back?
Please, on my last point is, can we get to the main road mapping, if you can, please? Where are the bus stops for the residents? But, we're going to need, bus stops. We've got an active travel bus subsidy elemented into the what's name of 700 and some odd pounds. But where's the bus stops?
Future, there is one there, which is the blue circle. I think there might be another one. Yeah, there's one there as well. Again, the blue circle. There will be a number of bus stops delivered along the 449 as part of the application, and you'll see there's a condition recommended as part within the decision to require the submission of details of those stops, which will include real-time information covered, etc. So there'll be a number provided along the 449. So I'm sure my highways colleague might be able to provide a bit more information. She's smiling, so I'm going to say yes.
I come back in before highways, just jumping. My key point was that where we did the site visit last week, we saw that where the bus stop near an island really wasn't conducive, really. It was really too close. You'll have traffic going out of the village, crossing over to the side of a major lane, could easily cause. Isn't there a way we could say design a slip area into it?
Highways, you want to comment? Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, there are several bus stops. So that plan that's on screen at the moment shows the orange where the existing one is and the blue where the proposed, but these snippets don't include the full route. So there is another plan that provides more details. And at detailed design, we will require further details, and some of the bus stops will require laybys. We don't want them on all of them because the problem with laybys sometimes is that the bus can't get back onto the main line. So yeah, there will be a mix of them depending on whereabouts it is.
Councillor Steele.
Thank you, Chairman. I think you might have just answered my question. You just showed another picture on the screen, which I think was off the roundabout. So there are two accesses to this site then, is this correct? Because on the plan, it doesn't look like there's an entrance off the roundabout. If you could just go back to that one, yeah. Yeah, it doesn't look the same to me. Or are you saying the black line is a road? Right, I'm with you. I do have a concern about the southern access. Will that be in and out to the site? So traffic coming from the centre of Penkridge will have to wait in the middle of the road to turn right into that access. As we're looking at, we're being asked for our views on the access to the sites. That's why I'm asking the question. And will it be, I mean, the site, on the site visit, we saw a splayed sort of entrance that's there at the moment. Is it going to be like a T-junction, or is it going to be splayed? Sorry, if you can understand.
Do you want to go to it? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. It will be a T-junction, and that's going to serve a small parcel of land as well as a pumping station. So I think it's up to 28 houses is what's proposed off that access. So there won't be a huge amount of traffic turning in and out of that access. All the accesses have been modelled using standard industry junction capacity software, and it's shown that it would operate within capacity, so there's no severe delay or queuing or blocking back along the main carriageway on the A449 expected.
Want to come back? Okay. Councillor Kelly, one more time.
Yeah, please. I've got to dispute that. Sorry. Where that junction is, you're just, I would say, 150 yards from the market. And that junction, as well as Leaverdale Road, that is a nightmare any day of the week. You've got articulated lorries coming out with tractors as well on that road. That is major. And to have not a, as I say, slip area into that sort of road will cause mayhem. And I mean, will cause.
Want to comment?
Yeah, and I take on board what you're saying, but I think you've got to take it in the picture of what we've already said. The nature of that road at the moment is, as you've just said, you have got a lot of sort of vehicles coming out of there. It's all been modelled, as Amrit's already said. So all the vehicles you've just talked about is all in that data that we process to make sure that junction will operate. So there'll be a percentage of heavy goods vehicles will be in there. So we can make sure that assessment is as real as it can be. So in terms of 28 vehicles, you're not going to get a huge amount of vehicles turning right into that site. And part of what we said earlier, in terms of helping to slow vehicles down, there will be a bit of that going on, and it'll help to keep the vehicle speeds lower to 30. I don't think it's going to be quite. I know what you're saying about the market, but that's a one-off situation, which, you know, a successful market means you're going to get plenty of traffic. So it's swings and roundabouts. You know, you could over-design a junction to cater for a very small proportion of time. So it's not really considered, you know, what we would accept in terms of, we don't think it's necessary.
Councillor Sam Harper-Wallace.
In terms of the modelling, do you guys ever consider, it's quite close to the roundabout, so if I was struggling to turn right there on a busy time, I'd go up to the roundabout, do a loop, whether that's allowed or not, and then come down on the left-hand side. Do you model for that at all, or consider that? Is it a concern?
Generally speaking, because, like I said, because it's 28 houses, of which, you know, you might be talking in the morning, a handful, probably less than 10, I would say. Sorry, in an evening, probably less than 10. So what's that? Less than one every 5 or 6 minutes. So the occurrence of it happening. So this is what the modelling software does. It's based on what's happening on the main road. So every gap that's in that traffic allows you to turn right. So basically it's saying there's plenty of gaps in the traffic that's coming to allow you to turn right. It's not going to be, you will get a bit of queuing here and there, but nothing that's going to cause chaos. You're right, you could go up to the roundabout, turn around and come right. It's not an illegal manoeuvre. I don't think you'll do it personally, because I don't think you're going to have a huge amount of problems turning right in and out of that site.
Okay, any more speakers? Can't see any more speakers, no. So I shall go to the vote. The recommendation is to approve. All those in favour of approval, please show.
It's unanimous. Chair.
Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you, members. Okay. Right, we go to the next application, which is, yeah, it's up there, 25//00302/FUL, and it's land on the east side of Walgarston Way and the north side of Saxon Road. This is the application for the battery box. Ellen, do you want to outline the application? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. In this case, I am going to defer to the case officer, who is Jess. Thank you, Jess.
Good evening. This application is before planning committee as it is sited on council owned land. The application seeks to provide a new battery box, also known as a micro BESS, on an area of existing grassland that's situated between the M6 motorway and Walgarston Way in Penkridge. The existing site is open grassland with trees bounding the site to the east and west, and the only other apparatus on this site is an existing air quality management unit, which can be seen in that photo there on the left. Planning permission is sought for the installation of a 200 kilowatt battery energy storage system, referred to as a battery box, measuring 3.92 metres by 5.85 metres. And the installation will consist of 4 batteries, an electrical cabinet and a 2.5 metre high fence. A new access would be created off Walgarston Way. You can see where the new access would be created, as there's an existing informal access, but a new dropped curb and tarmac entranceway would be created for safe and convenient access into the site for construction and general maintenance moving forward. The facility would provide means of allowing electricity from the grid to be imported and stored within the batteries at times of low demand and when there are high levels of renewable energy available, and exporting it back to the grid during periods of high demand. The proposed battery box is situated within the Penkridge settlement boundary, where the principle of development is acceptable, subject to other material planning considerations being satisfied, and the development is modest in scale and would contribute to the energy security whilst having a minimal impact on the street scene due to its siting set away from the road, well screened from the existing trees on site. The fire officer has raised no objection to this development, subject to conditions to allay any concerns regarding fire risk, and there has been no objections raised by environmental health in relation to noise or disturbance to any adjacent neighbouring dwellings following the submission of a noise survey. In conclusion, there are no concerns arising in respect of residential amenity, highway safety, ecology, trees, flood risk or fire risk, and on this basis it is recommended that the application is recommended for approval subject to conditions. I'll just talk through a couple of the slides in the presentation. You can see here from these photographs the general site. It's an area of public open space, and the battery box will take up around 20 square metres within this location. And you can see on the picture on the left the trees that provide screening from Walgarston Way, and then on the right the trees that provide the screening and buffer between the M6 motorway and the site. Next slide please, Helen. This is the general street scene of Walgarston Way, and the battery would be situated to the right hand side. And again, you can see looking out from the site how well the site is screened from the existing trees on site. Next slide please, Helen. This is just an example of the battery boxes that have been approved at this committee, similar to what's been proposed under this application. This is the red line boundary of the site. And you can see here where the new access will be created and where the battery box will be situated within the area of public open space. And this is a more close-up of the battery box. and the access into the site. Thank you.
Thank you, Jess. We have two speakers. Now, Councillor Kelly will be speaking as the local member, but he won't be speaking as a member of the planning committee and won't take part in the decision or the debate. So first to you as the local member speaking, Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Chair. I've got concerns with this on several points. Firstly, I've gone through all the documentation of the battery box, and especially at 2.3 site selection. Clearly say suitable site must be within 50 metres of an existing substation or a large phase 3 low voltage cable to allow for the vehicle electrical connection. I have measured the nearest connection, which is identified on the map, and that is 75 metres away. I have also done sound recordings. The sound recordings that they are put forward are diagrammed in their paperwork as north, east, south, west. And if you look at the 30 metres to the back of the battery box, that would put them in the middle of the motorway. So how have they done recordings in the middle of the motorway? From the site of the battery box to the edge of the road of Walgarston Way is 30 metres, 100 feet. I have measured it to my property, which is the property on the left side there, is 110 metres. And the nearest property, which is number 12, which I'm speaking on behalf of two residents today, and that is that number 12 there, that is from their back garden 15 feet from their back garden, and to their middle of their property 20 metres. So the noise sound would be a lot more detrimental to them than anywhere else. And the access, which I've already put comments forward, is that access right by the battery box there. The residents had to pay £300 to have trees planted because they had trees removed on district land not recently, and that they planted those two new trees. Those new trees will be removed, I suppose, for the hard footings for them to drive on, to install the battery boxes, which I expect will cause a lot of problems. And the public open space, it states in the paperwork it's not used. Yet I've got diagrams and photos of people, Mr. Mentz, the neighbours number 12, all walk their dogs, kids play, picnics on there, a lot of people do. Yet they make comments as if that, and I'll call it on that.
Thank you for sticking to the 3 minutes. Thanks, Councillor Kelly. You remain seated, but you're not allowed to vote or take part in the debate. You're leaving the room.
Yeah, I'm leaving there. Yeah.
I'll leave it a moment.
Sorry, mate.
Okay, members, we have another speaker, and the speaker is the applicant, which is Ashley Boyce from AMP Clean Energy. You've got 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Ashley Boyce, and I'm Senior Development Manager at Clean Energy, the applicant for the proposal. I'd like to thank the Planning Officer for all their work on the application and helping us put the best scheme forward. The application is at committee today due to concerns, as you heard, on location, and I think fire risk was also brought up. I'll address all concerns, but let me just give a brief explanation on these schemes and why we need them. So the UK's energy mix is rapidly changing on our journey to net zero. The closing of coal plants and reducing our reliance on fossil fuels is a positive step, but with it comes new challenges. Solar and wind are intermittent sources. We can't just turn them on and off. There are times where we have too little power. When it's not windy enough, we have to turn on gas-fired power stations, and times where we actually have too much and we are paying wind farms to stop generating. However, instead of this, another solution is to capture this excess energy and use it during times where we don't have enough. This is where battery storage comes in. Exactly where the batteries are connected is also very important. Battery box is unique to other projects across the UK in that it's micro, it's quite small, and it's connected at low voltage. So we are storing the electricity next to our homes and businesses where the demand and need is, with heat pumps and EV chargers. These schemes will benefit the local area, strengthen the grid and improve resilience. However, it's very difficult to find space for this vital infrastructure retrospectively in an already built environment. We need these schemes everywhere, as I said, near the demand. AMP considers tens of thousands of sites every year for these schemes. Our team has searched through hundreds of South Staffordshire Council sites to identify possible candidates. There are multiple blockers in terms of available space, grid capacity, environmental constraints. These sites aren't only built in industrial areas because you don't only need them in industrial areas, we need them where our houses are. In this case, the fence units proposed at the very edge of this small green space, tucked away. It won't obstruct anyone using the open green space for dog walking and picnics. In fact, it's more out of the way than the current air quality system that you saw a picture of earlier. It also does not pose a fire risk, and there's been no objection from the Fire and Rescue Service. Grid scale batteries are incredibly safe, and DESNZ and Ofgem recently published the Clean Energy Roadmap that says grid scale batteries pose no greater danger than other infrastructure, and that fires at grid scale battery sites appear to be less likely than those at non-domestic buildings in general. These batteries are no more dangerous than the gas kiosk or the electricity substation we're connecting into, which actually, I'll correct the member, the connection is 50 metres into the road, not just to the substation which he identified up the road. To conclude, we are surrounded by infrastructure and equipment that allows us to live our lives every day, such as substation, gas kiosks, telecoms masts, that largely go unnoticed. You might have seen the 2 brown boxes in the car park outside. These are both electricity substations, and if you didn't, well, hopefully that proves my point. Don't really see them, and our aim is that battery boxes will become just another compound that you walk past every day without really noticing, but will help. It's vital to keeping our lights on. Hope you'll agree with the planning officer's recommendation for approval and welcome the benefits it will provide to your local area. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms Boyce. As is custom, we go to the local member, which is Councillor Adams. Speak.
Thank you, Chair. I think the only reservation that I had was the fire, but the fire safety said it's fine, but because it's close to the housing, close to the motorway. But obviously, if they're saying it's okay, I can't make any objections to that. Otherwise, I'll wait to see any other discussion.
Any other speakers? Councillor Adams. Sorry.
Thanks, Chair. I've got 4 concerns. Would you like them all in one go, or do you want to go through one at a time? Is that all right? One at a time. Okay, cool. Okay, so the first objection that I have is loss of open public space. The NPPF 99 to 101 makes it clear that you shouldn't use existing open space should not be built on unless it's surplus to requirement. I don't believe in Penkridge it is surplus to requirement. And then also that goes in conflict with another core strategy, HW1B, which expressly states that the council will not permit the loss of open space. So again, that's one major issue, and that open space is utilised quite a lot. It's utilised by walkers. It's near a residential area, so you can imagine kids play on it. And I just think, members, for me, if we're setting the precedent that we're releasing open space in our villages for sites like this, we're setting a dangerous precedent. And this is coming from someone who's approved renewable energy and voted in favour on many occasions for, you know, solar panels in my own patch and BESS is in my own patch. This one really doesn't sit right with me. So yeah, back to the officers for their answer on that one.
Want to come back? Jess.
Okay, so the public open space will still be utilised and still be able to be utilised by members of the public. It takes up around 20 square metres of what this particular patch is, around 2,000 square metres of public open space, and the battery energy storage will take up around 20 square metres of that. And then further down south past this is more public open space along Algarston Way. There's pretty much all along Algarston Way between the motorway and the road is public open space that provides a buffer between the motorway and the houses. This area will still be able to be used by members of the public based on the size of the battery storage system. So hopefully that covers your concern.
Yeah, come back.
The core strategy explicitly states that the council will not permit the loss of open public space. So we're going directly against the core strategy there in the emerging local plan. My next one then would be around inappropriate site selection. So obviously the application acknowledges that, you know, it would be better on industrial or brownfield sites. The MPPF paragraph 152 requires new development to support the transition of a low carbon future, which is kind of what the applicant made clear. But it also says while reusing previously developed land. So again, that kind of goes against and tilts, in my opinion, away from approval. In the MPPF explicitly says, you should try and use previously developed land. And again, the core strategy policies 3 and EQ5 encourage, in our own strategies, encourage the renewable energies, but with a preference for brownfield and non-sensitive locations. I believe this might be a sensitive location, but it's definitely obviously not brownfield. So again, we're sort of tilting away from our own core strategy again.
Is that it, Sam? Oh, carry on. Sorry, do you want to come back to? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that kind of is grounded in Jess's first point, really, that yes, it is sited within an area of public open space, but it doesn't affect the functionality of that open space. I think I just want to make clear here that the red line plan that you're seeing on the screen, that area is not kind of fenced off and blocked off. That red line area is just including the access to the highway here, which is where it will be utilised for construction and then minimal maintenance after, and then the actual battery box here. So that whole red line that you see in there won't be fenced off or developed out. It's two quite distinct parts, but in planning terms, we always have to make sure the red line accesses the highway. So that's why it's larger than the actual developable area. So I just want to make clear that that's the battery box there. All the rest of this space around it will still be functional green space. People will be able to walk through there. That won't be kind of restricted or fenced or anything. So it's all about it's not about the principle of the loss. It's about the functionality of the open space and the fact that that will still function. People will still be able to walk their dogs. People will still be able to walk north and south and link into the wider area of public open space. If this approval is granted, that red line doesn't represent a kind of a sterilised area, should we say, in terms of access to that part of the public open space. So I hope that clarifies that point. Thank you, Chair.
Would come back.
No, that's fine. There is fencing though, going up 2 metre fencing, I think was presented, right?
Yeah, so Helen, if I could just ask you to flick back to the photograph of examples of other battery boxes that have been built. So the fencing refers to literally that fencing that you can see around the battery box there, the wooden element of that. That's the fencing that is referenced to within the report.
Thank you. Segues on nicely to my, I might have miscounted how many objections there, but I've just got one more. I think there's a conflict with the designing character in our own policies. So EQ4 and EQ11 require development to respect landscape character and local distinctiveness. As I mentioned, this is a green corridor that kind of flows on the right hand side, flows through Penkridge. It's tree lined and it's a distinct feature of Penkridge. It's kind of our wraparound area, and it's, like I said, it draws people to utilise the land. And so I think that I would say here that the core strategies are being impacted here, and there's a negative impact on design and character policies.
Is that your last item on that, Chair? No comment. No. More speakers, anybody? Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As this is our own property, I think a great deal of care must have been taken to make sure we've got it right. I don't know if it were to be refused, are we going to appeal? You're putting against yourself, aren't you? To me, I think that it's been carefully
Councillor Reid, it to be the applicant that wouldn't be making the appeal, not the authority. Carry on. Be the applicant that makes the appeal. Have you finished? Yes, sorry. Next speaker, Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've just got a concern about this public open space issue, and what I'm trying to do in my head is get all the points about the loss of public open space and issues such as the size. The battery box isn't going to take 1% of the land. It's going to be moved to the side, and put all that together in a way that this is mitigated, so that as you said, Helen, the functionality of the public open space could still be used. And the one issue I've still got with this site is the access. So looking at the map, we've got as has been said, a long, narrow, flowing green space, mainly to the south of the proposed red line of the site and a little bit to the north. And the access road is currently severing this line. It's been said that people still be able to walk their dogs and use the site for things that public open spaces are used for. My remaining concern is how the access road is going to sever the site and stop the whole site being used, which could be a detriment to its function. So I'm just wondering what type of access will be used. Is it going to be a full-on road, or is it going to be a lighter dirt track thing? Thank you.
Sorry, Alan. Do you want to comment?
Thank you, Chair. There's no access road to the battery box. There's literally just that shown on the site, which is an area for a van to pull up. So it just gets them off the highway, which was the issue that we had originally in terms of highway safety. We didn't want any vehicles parking on the highway. So that's an area where they can pull off. And then the maintenance of the battery box is by foot, we've been told. So they pull up off the highway, park the vehicle there, and then they can, when they're done, they just carry on their way. So there's no access road within the site. There's no change. I think it's going to remain grassed area. We've not been informed of anything different. So it's literally just the box is going to be put there as the air quality station is, but it'll just be further back.
Thank you, Amber. Is it finished?
Yes, it's so that just to confirm, there's going to be no road or path. They're going to the van will pull off Algarston Way, and then there'll be a parking area and the service. People then go up to the back box like that, and the rest of the area will be grass, so there won't be any severance of the public open space.
That's correct. Sam Harper-Wallace.
Thank you, Chair. In relation to that then, so we're worried about the dangers of people parking the site. They would presumably not reverse onto that. They would drive into it, but they'd have to reverse out into the road. So has that been considered in highways sort of planning? That are we just mitigating the danger just to 30 seconds later?
Right. To come back.
I think the area should be wide enough for them to pull into it and then turn off in Ford Gate. If they're not able to, then they'd be able to drive over the grassed area, obviously subject to weather conditions.
Okay. Okay. Any Councillor Adams?
I've just got two little questions. How often are people going to use this? How often are they going to drive onto it?
Cheers.
Sorry.
The maintenance will be very few and far between. Not very often is the answer to that question. It's not something that's going to be happening on a weekly basis or even a monthly basis. It's really not very often at all.
I didn't think it was. Now the other, you've just said this, Helen, a few minutes ago. I think, can you just go back to the one where you can see the box over there? That one. The box is only the little bit. So when you come round, as you come round Wolgaston Way, there's a big area of grass. And I can't say I've seen lots of people use it, but they might do because I don't go around there a lot. But they can still do that. So that box is right at the back, isn't it? So I can't see that really it's going to have a lot of effect on that open space. And I think really you need to go and have a look at it to see that.
Yes, Helen, carry on.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right there, Councillor Adams. So to be really, really clear, it's two separate elements of development, if you like. The parking space here, so that you can pull off the road if you're the maintenance person and walk over, and then the battery box here, which is surrounded tightly by the fence. The gap in between remains exactly as it is and is still accessible and walking. You'll be able to walk through behind the existing properties and then link into the south. So it's two separate, quite small elements. You're absolutely right. Thank you, Chair.
Yep. Any more speakers? Sam Harper Wallace.
Thank you. What protections is the applicant going to do to stop just members of the public using that as effectively a mini car park to then access the local space? Are we okay with that?
Yes. Or any one of you who wants to take that question? Everybody's looking each way. Jess, do you want to answer it? Bear with us a moment, please.
Yeah, I don't know if Amrit will correct me if I'm incorrect here, but obviously you've got that kind of existing very informal access there. I don't think there's any proposal for there to be a kind of gate or a restricted kind of element to it. But obviously it's council land. It would be unauthorised parking, so we wouldn't really expect it. And it is a small enough space. I don't think that would attract a lot of attention, but I don't know, Amrit, if you've got a view on that, but I don't think it's something that would warrant lockable bollards, for example, or a gated access. As you can see, there's an informal access there on that picture that you can see on the left-hand side, and it's just formalising that. Thank you, Chair.
Do you want to come back? No? Any more speakers? Councillor Steele.
Thank you, Chairman. Policy HWB1 sets out that the local authority will not permit any loss of public open space. So this actual application proposal is about principles. For once, it's not about safety or something we don't like. It's about principles. So previously we've objected to BESSes and various things, and there have not been any planning reasons why we should object or even vote against. Also, regarding neighbour amenity at clause H. So get there. Policy EQ9 seeks to protect the amenity of nearby residents. It requires that developments likely to generate noise are directed to appropriate locations away from noise-sensitive areas. So I'm not sure of the number of that property, but that's a noise-sensitive area. It's 35 metres away. Paragraph 198 of the NPPF states that planning decisions should ensure that new development is appropriate for its location, taking into account adverse impacts resulting from pollution and noise. Not my words, words of the officer. I could go on about neighbour amenity. It does say the nearest property to the application site is 4 Athelston Close, which lies 35 metres northwest of the proposed battery. There will be noise generated by these batteries because they have to be kept cool, especially when they're taking in power or releasing the power, or in hot weather, it has to be kept to a reasonably low temperature, especially when it's 30 degrees. We've had 4 heat waves this year, approaching 30 degrees. So I just wish we had a BESS closer that we could go and listen to, but you know, we don't. We're stacking up problems for ourselves. But anyway, like I've just said, in fact, I want to just go to conclusions, the officer, before I make my next statement. Sorry, just bear with me. This is the officer's conclusions. The proposed micro battery energy facility would be situated with an area of public open space that features other services. Could someone explain to me what the other services are before I carry on, please?
Yes.
Yeah, the other services is that air quality management box that you can see on the photograph there. It's been existing there for some time.
Obviously. Shall I just shout out because it's not working? Oh, sorry. I couldn't see the light. I was too close. My apologies. I knew you'd say that actually, but it's just a box. It's not a service. It's just a box that takes recordings of motorway noise, I assume, and sort of test the air quality from the motorway. I wouldn't call that a service. It is a box. The development is modest in scale and would contribute to energy security whilst having a minimal impact on the street scene. In addition, there are no concerns arising in respect to residential amenity. I disagree with that. Ecology, arboricultural, flood risk. Again, I wouldn't argue with that, but I would say it's a principle. And on planning balance, I would like to propose refusal. And I've given you HWB 1, EQ 9. So, yeah, I need a second.
I think Sam Harper Wallace wants to comment, and
I will second that, but also would like to add more evidence and reasons for refusal. I was just writing them up and sending it to you.
Go ahead.
Councillor Steele beat me to it.
We've had a proposal. You're amending the proposal by adding to that proposal, but you can second it accordingly. So carry on.
I will second it and then
Yeah.
propose some amendments if that's okay, Chair.
Yeah, mention the amendment, please.
Okay, so just so we're writing down the notes then. So Councillor Steele's amendment discusses paragraph 99 to 101 open spaces. Should have, sorry, let me get this exact wording for you. Should not be built on unless, open spaces should not be built on unless surplus to requirement. So that's contradictory. Again, the HW1B, which you mentioned, is completely contradictory to our open space policy in that we won't release any. Then I would like to add, so this would be an addition, would be MPPF 152, developments towards a carbon future, what should reuse previously developed land. I'd also like to add core strategy policy 3 and EQ 5, which encourages, which states renewable sites, and we do encourage renewable sites, but with a preference for brownfield or non-sensitive locations. So I'm saying that, again, that's contradictory. This, the impact on residential amenity, I think This might have been in the original proposal, but those paragraphs are 185 and 198 require developments to avoid unacceptable noise, pollution or disturbance. But I think that was in the original motion. And then addition would be core strategy EQ4 and EQ11 require developments to respect landscape character and local distinctiveness, and the fenced off or the box objectively goes against that. And then I think that's you could add PPF 130, which stresses development should add overall quality to the area. And again, I would say that this box doesn't add any quality to the area. So hopefully that's enough for us to go on and defend ourselves at appeal. Thank you.
The situation is, and I'll ask officers, they need to look at whether that's adequate for refusal. Do you want to drop your original proposal in favour of the amendment, Councillor Stern? Okay. So we're talking about the proposal from Councillor Harper-Wallis. Before I say any more, are there any more comments, questions from any other speakers? Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've just found a paragraph here that says that a noise assessment has been submitted with the application and the Council's Environmental Health Officer raises no objections. To me, if the EHO is saying that, I take that as a very strong point in favour. The fact that there's no noise.
Councillor Harper-Wallis.
Thank you. I'll be willing to remove that if it strengthens the motion to reject.
Okay, Helen, come in.
Yeah, all your points are heard from the motion that's been tabled. I do have to raise concerns with the residential amenity and just from an officer perspective, because a noise impact assessment has been done and that's being assessed against the neighbouring 2 residential properties. Councillor Steele's absolutely right, there is noise generated from these battery boxes, but the assessment's been made in relation to the 2 most sensitive noise receptors. So just framing that in terms of an appeal, obviously it would have to be backed with a technical set of data, and our in-house expert does not raise any concerns with it and has assessed that data. So I just need to flag with members that as part of that motion that the residential amenity does raise concerns from an officer perspective. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
I'd be willing to either drop it or change it or make it explicit about the visual intrusion, not the noise.
Is that acceptable?
Okay, so what I've taken as what you've just labelled as visual intrusion was the landscape harm and the distinctive character. So I think we could separate out those for you in terms of loss of public open space and then impact on landscape harm and character, but that would remove the noise element. So you're still looking at 2 reasons for refusal. Would that be okay?
Okay. Any more speakers? No. So is it acceptable?
So the policies you've outlined to us in terms of the loss of public open space and the landscape harm and the impact on the character of the area are acceptable policies, and we would be able to work with those in framing a reason for refusal. Obviously that would be weighed in the balance, saying that the harm outweighs any benefits that would be associated with the energy generation and the renewable source of energy that this is. So that's the difference in terms of the planning balance. But those 2 reasons for refusal, based on those policies, we could substantiate that. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, you want to come back?
I just want to just totally ensure that we're like squeaky clean on the policies. So the paragraphs were for the loss of open space were 99 to 101 and HWB1. That's one reason for rejection. The second one is inappropriate site selection. If you want to put that in open, but that is a distinct, like 152 is the paragraph there, and then our other policies would be 3 and EQ5. If you've got those, yeah, okay, cool.
Okay, I'll go to the vote before any more. I understand. Right, so we go to the vote. The proposal is for refusal. All those in favour of refusal, please show.
2, 3, 6.
Okay. Anyone, all those against that proposal? Okay. There's no abstentions. 3 abstentions. Chairman's vote. I am going to stick to my vote refusal. So the application is refused. Thank you. We'll just pause for a moment while we get Councillor Kelly back in. We're waiting for Ellen, and that's why we're delaying. 1 second. Councillor Kelly, did Ellen find you, or is she still looking for?
Looking for you.
She's looking for you. Okay, let's resume. So we're on to the next application, which is 25/00409/FUL. It's holding 137 Wolverhampton Road, Rodbaston. Which officer is dealing with this? Rebecca, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everybody. This application relates to a semi-detached farmhouse located on Wolverhampton Road within the West Midlands Greenbelt to the southwest of Penkridge Village. Retrospective planning permission is being sought for the retention of a static caravan that was sited on the agricultural land to the rear of the dwelling in approximately March of this year. Permission is being sought for a 2-year period to allow the occupants to live in the caravan whilst the dwelling is undergoing significant works to renovate, extend and make it habitable again. The application has been referred to Planning Committee as the staging of the caravan is an appropriate development within the Greenbelt, which would lead to a small reduction in openness. However, no permanent development will take place and the land will be restored to its original condition at the end of the 2-year period. As any harm to the Greenbelt is limited to this temporary time period, it is considered that this amounts to the very special circumstances required to justify the policy breach. In addition, there are no concerns arising in respect of highways, ecology or residential amenity. Approval is therefore recommended subject to conditions. We just go to the slides now, please. This first slide shows the site. The area outlined in red is all of the land within the applicant's ownership. Next slide, please. The second slide shows the dwelling with the extension that they are intending to build, marked in dark grey. This will be built utilising the dwelling's permitted development rights and was assessed for compliance with the legislation earlier this year under application reference number 25/00410/FUL. Static caravan is shown to the rear of the site behind the access track, and that is the subject of this application. Next slide, please. On the third slide, to the left is a photograph of the mobile home in question, and to the right is the dwelling house. Next slide, please. Again, to the left is the mobile home, which you can see alongside some of the older outbuildings associated with the small holding. And to the right is a photograph of the inside of the dwelling house showing its condition, which is also continued onto the next slide, please, just evidencing that the dwelling is uninhabitable currently. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Right, we have no speakers, members, so it's to the local members first. Councillor Kelly and Councillor Adams, do you wish to speak? You want to speak?
It's just for a short period of time. I see no issue with that.
Councillor Kelly?
Thank you, Chair. My only concerns is I know it's a retrospective application, but my other concerns is they've made massive changes to the front of the property as well. They have massive gates of more than 2 metres and a brick wall, which would have need planning permission, which they haven't sought on that, as well as a further proper drive expanding to the rear of the property. And if you go back 2 photographs, you will see a camper van as well as what's name. Are we sure that this is a development and not inclusion to a traveller site?
Councillor Kelly, we can only look at what's before us tonight. Some of those things you quote are enforcement issues, so we can only look at this application tonight. Any more speakers? Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's just probably something we experienced in Lower Penn, where someone put up an application to build a bungalow, lived in a caravan. They lived in it for 10 years before it could get resolved. So I'm concerned about the time, because you didn't know when they finished. This is not a problem in the Lower Penn, where they didn't finish, and therefore they were allowed to live on in the caravan. Fortunately, it was resolved in the end. It took a long while, and there was always a danger which told them they've got to come out, they could appeal, and that might have led. So I'm just concerned about that timing. If they did need extension, it would be so that they've got to get 2 years, isn't it? Well, but you know, with the weather, so beware with these.
I think Councillor Reid's answered his own question there. Rebecca, do you want to come back at all?
The application is subject to a 2-year time condition, which states that the mobile home has to be removed from site at the end of the 2-year period or sooner if the works to the dwelling are completed.
Any more speakers? Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Chair. Just last point I'm going to raise. We have a property just about half a mile up the road that went through the same scenario, and they've got 2 massive containers at the junction of Robaston College. That has been going on there for 5 to 6 years, and them containers still haven't been removed. And that is the sort of scenario, as Councillor Reid has pointed out, which we do not want to be in the scenario.
Councillor, as the local member, suggest you look at the 2-year period. And if it's still there after 2 years, you comply to our enforcement. Thank you. Councillor Reid.
Can I ask a question about the name? It says holding.
That's just the way our property is listed on the gazetteer. I do believe it probably was a former small holding, but it is the entirety of the application site edged in red. But yes, that's just the information that we have on the postal address. The application site is the extent of the red line boundary.
Any more speakers? No, no more speakers. So I go to the vote. The recommendation is for approval. All those in favour of approval, please show. That's unanimous, so the application is approved. Thank you. Go to the next application. Right, this application is 25/00504/FUL. It's for Severn Trent Water Limited, Copley Pumping Station in Pattingham. Which officer is dealing with this, Ellen?
Thank you, Chair. This application relates to Copley Pumping Station, and the station is located southwest of Pattingham Village within the West Midlands Greenbelt. The station and the surrounding area comprises of an existing grassland and agricultural fields and beyond this site. The station is bounded by a fence along the southern boundary and trees around the site's perimeter. What they are looking for consent this evening for members is planning permission for the installation of 1 kiosk. So that shows you the site plan there. The application is referred to Planning Committee as the development constitutes inappropriate development within the Greenbelt, which fails to be listed as an exception. The kiosk was installed as an emergency scheme to deal with issues of water quality on the site. There are 2 existing boreholes that go down into drinking water, and there were some quality issues that needed analysis, and that's the purpose of this kiosk that's been installed. It's got a relatively low, small footprint, as you can see from the plan, low height, and is sited within the vicinity of numerous other buildings and structures. Due to the public benefits of the scheme and its very limited impact to the visual amenity of the Greenbelt, it's considered this does amount to very special circumstances and justifies the policy breach. There are no concerns arising in terms of highways, ecology, public rights of way, residential amenity, and approval is therefore recommended with conditions. So this photo here shows you the site access along with the access to the neighbouring property, and some views towards the wider site and the public right of way which runs adjacent. And this is probably the most useful plan, which shows you the location of the kiosk here, sited within the context of the existing station. Approval is recommended. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ellen. Are there any speakers? Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I've no problems whatsoever with this application. I mean, it is needed. And also the fact that there's a public footpath that's running through there and it's not interfering with that. I have no objections at all.
Thank you, Councillor Reid. Anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Kelly.
As it's, I would perceive it's a sampling cabin to test water. So you'll have people on site. Are foul sewerage toilets on site for that sort of, are they built in with that?
Thank you, through you, Chair. Not as part of the kiosk that's proposed, but part of the facilities that are already offered on site. Yes, thank you, Chair.
Okay, any more speakers? No, so we go to the vote. The recommendation is approval. All those in favour of approval, please show.
It's unanimous.
Again, unanimous, so that is approved. Now, is there a development management tonight now?
No.
Right, okay. Yeah, I don't know whether you appreciate that. We did put this one back. There'll be another meeting in 3 weeks' time. So Kelly is on holiday at the moment, so she'll be back. So we'll have the development control then. Okay. And that members, I'm closing the meeting. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.